Hey everybody, so if you watched my Eastern Conference video of this kind, then you know that my camera app keeps freezing. I'm having trouble with that. So I'm back recording on my phone for right now because I really want to get these videos up today and for all of you. So we already, this video, if you watch the Eastern Conference one, is going to be the same thing except for the Western Conference, where I look at the bubble teams in the Western Conference and we talk about their road ahead and their remaining schedules, who is likely to get in based on their remaining games, who's likely to be left out. So for this, I have Colorado, Arizona, and Minnesota up here as the bubble teams. Dallas is in the first wild card spot, but they have 86 points. Dallas should get in. If Dallas, they have a 3-point lead over Colorado, who's the second wild card team. Dallas should get in. If Dallas doesn't get in at this point, it would be an epic collapse on their part. So for me, the bubble teams are all fighting for that second wild card spot, and it's Colorado, Arizona, and Minnesota. Colorado currently holds the wild card spot with 83 points through 77 games. They've been playing really good hockey lately. Arizona, they are the first team out right now with 81 points through 77 games, 2 points behind. And then Minnesota is 4 points behind with 79 points through 77 games. So no games in hand are in play here out west as of right now. All of these teams have played 77 games, and we have 2 points separating each of them. Colorado, 2 points ahead of Arizona. Arizona, 2 points ahead of Minnesota. So obviously Minnesota is at the biggest disadvantage here. Being 4 points out at this point in the season is a pretty big climb, and it's going to take some incredible big game wins for Minnesota to get in at this point. But let's start with Colorado because they hold the spot right now, and they play Arizona. And I'm going to go through and I'm going to call games either a game that they should lose, a game that they should win, or a toss-up. So it's going to be L, W, or T. In Arizona, they're playing a team that's right next to them. That is an absolute toss-up. Absolute toss-up in that game against Arizona. They're two very evenly matched teams fighting for their playoff lives. That should be a phenomenal game on Friday night. Then they play St. Louis, and St. Louis is a better team than Colorado, so we're calling that one an L. They'll probably lose, or at least it wouldn't be a bad loss if they lose that game. St. Louis is a better team. Then they play Edmonton, and they absolutely should win that game. Edmonton is a lowly Pacific Division team, not going to the playoffs. Colorado has to win that game. Then they play Winnipeg. Winnipeg is a better team than the Avalanche. And then they play San Jose, who is also a better team than the Avalanche. So it's a pretty tough end of the season schedule for Colorado. You have that toss-up game against Arizona. You have the game that they should win against Edmonton. Then that's 3 other really tough games: St. Louis, Winnipeg, and San Jose. So I have 1 win, 3 losses, and 1 toss-up there. So let's say Colorado does go 1-3-1 the rest of the way. That gets them to 86 points. Does 86 points get you into that wild card spot? Well, it depends on what Arizona does. Now, just because I'm calling these games L's, I want to point out, doesn't mean that they can't win those games. Colorado absolutely could beat St. Louis, absolutely could beat San Jose or Winnipeg. I'm just, looking at it for the simplicity of just calling it a game that they should win or lose, or a toss-up. So I'm not saying that they're going to go 1-3-1. They could very easily win 2 or even 3 of these remaining games. And if they win 3 of these remaining games, that gets them to 89 points, and 89 points should absolutely get them in. Now, Arizona has that game against Colorado on Friday. That's a toss-up like we just said. Absolutely huge matchup there for those teams. If Colorado wins that, gets them to 85, they're in good shape the rest of the way. Then, they win against Edmonton, that gets them to 87. They should be in. Arizona wins that, all of a sudden they're tied with Colorado in points, and again, there's no games in hand at play here, so it would come down to the remaining schedule. Then they play Minnesota. Minnesota is one of these teams that we're about to talk about fighting for a playoff spot. We're going to call that a toss-up because they're, all right there. Then they play the Kings, and the Kings are a last-place team. Arizona should absolutely win that game. Then they play Vegas. They're probably going to lose that game. Vegas is a better team, and Winnipeg is a better team. So there's 2 L's. So we have 1 win, 2 losses, and 2 toss-ups for Arizona. Now, let's say Arizona does happen to go 1-2-2 the rest of the way. They probably won't. They will probably win more games than that. But let's just say 1-2-2 the rest of the way. That's 4 more points. That gets them to 85. I have Colorado getting to 86. So Arizona would miss the playoffs by 1 point if this is indeed how things actually turn out. Probably not going to be the exact records the rest of the way. Just saying what's a tough game and what should be a winnable game. Lastly, let's look at Minnesota. And Minnesota being 4 points out at this point, that's a big stretch to get in. They're going to need to win some serious games to get in. And they have Vegas in their next game. They're not nearly as good as Vegas, so we'll count that as an L. Then they have Arizona, which we've already said is a toss-up. Then they have Winnipeg. They're not, Winnipeg's a first-place team. That's an L. Then they have Boston. Boston's is, the second most points in the league. That's an L. And then they have Dallas, and Dallas is ahead of them, probably going to the playoffs. For Minnesota's sake, I'll call that a T, a toss-up. But this is a tough schedule the rest of the way. Vegas, Arizona, Winnipeg, Boston, and Dallas to end the year. I mean, I have no easy, guaranteed wins here. 3 losses and 2 ties. That only gets them, if they do go 0-3-2 the rest of the way, that only gets them to 80 points. Minnesota's out. Minnesota needs to go on a serious run and beat some very good teams to have a chance to get in at this point. So it really looks like it comes down to Colorado and Arizona. Minnesota's schedule the rest of the way is just, I think, too tough for them to win enough games to make up those points. So Colorado and Arizona also have very tough schedules the rest of the way. And, if things go exactly, how I just pointed it out, Colorado would get in by a point. But we're going to have to wait and see how things turn out. Again, this game on Friday night, Arizona versus Colorado, is an absolutely massive game. It's going to, that game could potentially determine who gets in and who doesn't. But still, they would both have 4 games after that, and games against very tough opponents. So it'll be interesting to see how many they win, how many they lose. If overtime points could absolutely come into play here. They could end up tied, and then it would go to a tiebreaker. That would be interesting. If you watch the Eastern Conference video, there's definitely the chance that Columbus and Montreal end up tied at 94 points, and then that would go to a tiebreaker as far as who gets in the East. That could happen out west as well with Colorado and Arizona. But anyway, it's going to be a really tight race, a really fun race to watch the rest of the way. And for me, it comes down to Colorado and Arizona. Minnesota has a very tough schedule the rest of the way and would need to win some huge high-pressure games against very good teams to do it. I'm not saying that they can't do it. They're certainly not mathematically eliminated or anything like that. But it would take an all-time effort for Minnesota to get in at this point. I think Colorado is in the driver's seat. Obviously, they have the 2-point lead, and they, have Edmonton on the schedule, who they should beat. And again, that game Friday between Arizona and Colorado is huge. So we'll wait and see how it all turns out, but the playoff races in both conferences to me look like they could come down to the very last day. I think it's only going to be a 1 or 2 point difference between them, and it's going to be it's impossible to call right now. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon and merchandise store are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys soon.